Hello everyone, I'm Chagatai. With you today we will learn 10 interesting facts. This is the first video I will present to you. Some of the information may sound strange, but remember that it is all based on real research. Let's examine these facts one by one together. I will share the information you want to continue researching in the About section. Our first knowledge is that people glow. When you hear about bioluminescence, your mind probably jumps to deep-sea creatures like the anglerfish, which uses millions of bacteria to make a light appear in front of its head, to catch prey and illuminate your nightmares. But what about humans? According to a study conducted in 2009 by Japanese researchers, human bioluminescence in visible light exists. It's just too dim for our weak eyes to pick up on. The human body literally glimmers. The team from the Tohoku Institute of Technology wrote in their study published in PLOS ONE, the intensity of the light emitted by the body is 1,000 times lower than the sensitivity of our naked eyes. The team made this odd discovery using super-sensitive cameras to monitor 5 healthy male volunteers for 20 minutes every 3 hours inside a light-tight room for 3 days straight. They found that participants glowed throughout the day, with the brightest spots appearing around the forehead, neck, cheeks in the late afternoon. The dimmest bioluminescence was recorded late at night. Is that why the dogs chase us at night? So what's going on here? Well, it's actually a pretty interesting side effect of our metabolisms. As Elliot Bentley sums up for The Guardian, human bioluminescence is the result of highly reactive free radicals produced through cell respiration interacting with free-floating lipids and proteins. These excited molecules can then interact with fluorophores, which can emit a photon, and boom, you're actually glowing. The team thinks the participants' heads glowed the most because this part of the body generally sees more sunlight, affecting the melanin inside the skin and triggering the illuminating reaction better than other areas. The second one of our facts is astonishing power of our stomach. It can destroy a razor blade. While we don't condone the consumption of razor blades, the human body is capable of great feats. One study found that the acid in the human stomach is more than sufficient to dissolve a razor blade after a couple of hours. The third one fact is the amazing property of clouds. Do you think clouds have any weight? How can they, if they are floating in the air like a balloon filled with helium? If you tie a helium balloon to a kitchen scale, it won't register any weight. So why should a cloud? To answer this question, let me ask if you think air has any weight. That is really the important question. If you know what air pressure and a barometer are, then you know that air does have weight. At sea level, the weight pressure of air is about 14.5 pounds per square inch, kilogram per square centimeter. Since air has weight, it must also have density, which is the weight for a chosen volume such as a cubic inch or cubic meter. If clouds are made up of particles, then they must have weight and density. The key to why clouds float is that the density of the same volume of cloud material is less than the density of the same amount of dry air. Just as oil floats on water because it is less dense, clouds float on air because the moist air in clouds is less dense than dry air. We still need to answer the question of how much a cloud weighs. To confuse things more, the weight depends on how you define it. The weight of the water droplets in the cloud, the weight of the water droplets, plus the weight of the air, mostly above the cloud, pressing down. We're only going to look at the weight of the actual cloud particles, as a density of about 0.5 gram per cubic meter. A 1 cubic kilometer, K-ot chem C, and so 1 cubic meters. Doing the math, 1 billion x 0.5, 500 million grams of water droplets in our cloud. That is about 500,000 kilograms or 1.1 million pounds at 551 tons. But that heavy cloud is floating over your head because the air below it is even heavier. The lesser density of the cloud allows it to float on the drier and more dense air. The fourth fact is that our eyes are unique. How many megapixels is the human eye? According to scientist and photographer Dr. Roger Clark, the resolution of the human eye is 576 megapixels. That's huge when you compare it to the 12 megapixels of an iPhone 7's camera. But what does this mean really? Is the human eye really analogous to a camera? Say cheese. To Ron's. A 576 megapixel resolution means that in order to create a screen with a picture so sharp and clear that you can't distinguish the individual pixels, you would have to pack 576 million pixels into an area the size of your field of view. To get to his number, Dr. Clark assumed optimal visual acuity across the field of view. That is, it assumes that your eyes are moving around the scene before you. But in a single snapshot-length glance, the resolution drops to a fraction of that, around 515 megapixels. That's because your eyes have a lot of flaws that wouldn't be acceptable in a camera. You only see high resolution in a very small area in the center of your vision, called the fovea. You have a blind spot where your optic nerve meets up with your retina. You move your eyes around a scene, not only to take in more information, but to correct for these imperfections in your visual system. The fifth fact is that the more we grow, the less bone we had. How many bones are babies born with, and why do they have more than adults? It may be difficult to imagine when looking at a tiny newborn baby, but that infant has around 300 bones, and those bones are growing and changing shape every day. Adults, on the other hand, have 206 bones, which make up about 15% of their body weight. Wait, did we really just say that babies have nearly 100 more bones than adults? How is that possible? Well, even though bones appear to be tough and rigid, they're actually made up of living tissue and calcium that's always being built up and discarded throughout your life. Changing bone as babies grow. As your baby grows into childhood, much of that cartilage will be replaced by actual bone. But something else happens, which explains why 300 bones at birth become 206 bones by adulthood. Bone changes don't stop there. By early adulthood source, the fusing of bones and bone growth have stopped. Adult bones are very strong but light, and surely now that you have your 206 bones, you're all set, right? Well, not exactly. While they appear to be solid and unchanging, bones are constantly going through a process called remodeling. Remodeling involves the formation of new bone tissue and the breakdown of older bone into calcium and other minerals, which are released into the bloodstream. This process is known as resorption, and it's a perfectly normal and healthy part of bone function. The sixth fact is the unknown property of oxygen, used by almost every living thing. We don't think of oxygen as anything but an invisible component in the air we breathe. But unlike many other gases on the periodic table, oxygen isn't colorless. If you cool O2 down until it becomes a liquid or freezes solid, you'll see that it's an incredibly pale blue. Oxygen gas is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. The liquid and solid forms are a pale blue color and are strongly paramagnetic. Other forms of solid oxygen appear red, black, and metallic. Oxygen supports combustion, combines with most elements, and is a component of hundreds of thousands of organic compounds. Zone O3, a highly active compound with a name derived from the Greek word for eye smell, is formed by the action of an electrical discharge or ultraviolet light on oxygen. 11th facts. If we could travel into space, we wouldn't be able to see most things. Why is most of the universe invisible? Is dark matter real? Here's what we know about it. All of us have heard from various astrophysicists that the universe is endless and keeps expanding. As humans, we have always had the curiosity to explore and learn more about the universe. Billions of dollars have been spent on building telescopes for this purpose. However, almost all of the universe is utterly invisible. All the stars, planets, and galaxies that can be seen today make up just 5 of the universe. The other 95 is made up of objects the astronomers cannot see, detect, or even comprehend. About 95 of the cosmos cannot be seen because it is made of the mysterious dark matter and dark energy that does not interact with light. Astronomers infer their existence based on their gravitational influence on what little bits of the universe can be seen, but dark matter and energy themselves continue to elude all detection. The 8th facts, something that anyone interested in lasers should try. You didn't hear wrong. Yes, you can trap a laser too. Let's see how this can be done. This is an example of total internal reflection, which occurs when a beam of light hits a medium boundary at a particular angle, so it reflects rather than passes straight through. This happens over and over again as the light hits each boundary, so the laser remains caught in the waterfall. From a physics perspective, There are two requirements for total internal reflection to happen. First of all, the light must be inside a more dense medium and also approaching the boundary of a less dense medium, so traveling from water into air, for example. And secondly, the light must hit that medium boundary at an angle greater than something called the critical angle. That angle changes depending on what type of mediums you're working with, but you can see a diagram of how that works below for those who are really keen. You can calculate the critical angle of a particular medium boundary using Snell's law. Does anyone like to stand in a place with so much light? It's certainly not healthy for the eyes. The ninth fact is the unusual characteristic of an animal living in the desert. Mechanisms of desert adaptation of camels Dromedarius, published in the Journal of Veterinary Science and Technology Environment. One of the most popular camel myths is that they store water in their humps so they can travel long distances without stopping to drink. While this is not true, research has shown that they can stay hydrated and function normally at high temperatures without changing their blood viscosity. Camel blood may also help scientists fight cancer. The last fact is that the oldest dessert is the most reliable. Does honey ever go bad? What you should know: honey is a natural sweetener. Because of its high sugar and low moisture content, it can last for a very long time. However, contamination, improper storage, and cheap additives may shorten its shelf life. Honey is one of the oldest sweeteners consumed by humans, with recorded use as far back as 5,500 BC. It's also rumored to have special, long-lasting properties. Many people have heard of jars of honey being unearthed in ancient Egyptian tombs, still as good to eat as the day they were sealed. These stories have led many people to believe that honey simply doesn't go bad, ever. But is that really true? Yes. Natural, properly preserved honey will not expire. In fact, archaeologists found honey thousands of years old in ancient Egyptian tombs, and it was still good. While most of us don't need to worry about honey that old, their discovery proves that if properly contained, real honey can last for a very, very long time. The National Honey Board also agrees. They say honey stored in sealed containers can remain stable for decades and even centuries. Thank you for watching me and the information I have prepared. I am working on a video system that will evolve over time.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say,